gave up a TV job to start a podcast in your basement. If that doesn't scream midlife crisis, I don't know what does.
It was Championship Sunday here in Indianapolis. What's the mindset then coming in as a defending champion?
I want to win. No, I want to win.
The young lady over my shoulder, Caitlin Clark.
Not the best looking guy. And I don't think anyone's going to sit here and say, Matt Randazzo was really good looking.
What has this last month, 2 months, 3 months been like for you? It's an important fan base for the Fighting Illini, is it not?
It is.
He turned 69 years young last week. You look good, Coach.
Oh, try it. Thank you.
Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. Thursday, September 25th. Thank you guys so much for joining us. If you're watching us live on YouTube, we appreciate that. Thank you for that. Make sure you have subscribed. If you have, thank you. If you have not, shame on you. Get that done ASAP. Tell a friend or two or 10 what we're doing each and every day around 10 a.m. Talking sports and a little bit more. It's been a ton of fun. Up and rolling since January, closing in on a year. We still got a few more months away, but things are going very well, and we're extremely excited about what we're building each and every day. We're also live on X. Thank you guys for watching on X. X is always very, very good to us. And also, you can check out the show on all the podcasting platforms each and every day. So head to Spotify, Apple, Podbean, iHeart, you name it. Anywhere you get your podcast, put in Off the Air with Matt Randazzo and check it out. Subscribe there, like, all that kind of fun stuff that helps us out as well. And also, thank you and welcome once again to our new viewers in Central Iowa. It's been a fun week. And we really enjoy the feedback. We enjoy you guys watching wherever you are at. But it's been a good week. So far this week on Off the Air, we've had Gary Dolphin, Scott Docterman, Chuck Long, Pat Angerer, Ty Taylor, Jake Brend, St. Ambrose, Alex Ponder, Clay Waterbury, John Schlemmer, John Marks, you name it. It's been a really fun week right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo, and we're just getting started. We got 2 more great shows to get you today and tomorrow. And then, of course, don't forget, on Saturday, we'll be on with a special post edition of Off the Air with Matt Randazzo after the Iowa game. Myself, Tom Kakert, will break down everything that we saw from Iowa and Indiana, and then of course I'll talk a little more about Illinois, USC, and some several games around college football. So check that out on Saturday. It's been a lot of fun, a lot of viewership on the weekends for those, and we appreciate those as well. So coming up on today's show, we're going to focus a little more on that Iowa-Indiana showdown coming up, homecoming, Kinnick Stadium, 2:30 this Saturday. Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report and Zach Browning from the Hoosier will both join me in a matter of moments, and we're going to kind of take a deep dive into the game, get both sides' perspective, kind of talk Hoosiers and find out what's going on in Bloomington. We saw it firsthand last week with the Fighting Illini going there and losing 63-10, and we've learning. People are finding out more about Kirk Cignetti. Hayden Fry 2.0 is what Scott Docterman has compared him to, and Chuck Long has said the same. So we'll take an in-depth look at the Hawkeyes and the Hoosiers coming up in a matter of moments, so don't go anywhere. Also, speaking about the Illini, our good friend Jim Mattson from Peoria will join us to talk about the Illini. We'll kind of put to bed the Indiana game, talk a little more about it, but really got to turn the page, and we do, and the Illini do as well. So we'll talk to Jim Mattson about turning the page and what's next, and a really good USC team coming to town at 11 a.m. on Saturday. Big noon Saturday is live from Champaign. Fox is there. How quickly can they bounce back? Because it's a really good USC team, and then they go to an improved Purdue team. And then Ohio State comes to town, and everyone knows they still have a trip to Washington ahead. So a team that had those playoff hopes now need to turn the page quickly and refocus and make sure this thing doesn't slip away quickly. So we'll talk with Jim Mattson about that coming up in a little bit. We're talking all this football, and it's Ryder Cup weekend. The Ryder Cup tees off on Friday. Such a fun weekend. United States versus Europe. Really, really interesting rosters, intriguing, very even, I think, when it comes to what we could expect this weekend, when it comes to what happens at Bethpage Black, easy for me to say, out in New York. So it should be a fantastic atmosphere. Our good friend Craig DeVrieze will join us in hour number 2 of the show to break down the Ryder Cup. That's why I'm kind of wearing my John Deere Classic stuff today, because a little golf to talk about later on in the show. We'll also have your Skiles Drive of the Week, your Skiles Driving School Drive of the Week. We've been meaning to get to it. We'll officially get to it today, kind of put to bed week 4 of the high school football season, move ahead to week 5. Tomorrow, OTA will be on the road once again. We'll take the show to, I think, Rock Ridge. We're going to test that out later on this afternoon, make sure we get enough internet bandwidth, all that kind of stuff, to bring you a live show there tomorrow. But that's the hope. Rock Ridge and Newman, 2 fantastic football teams ranked in the top 3 in the state of Illinois, going head to head, a huge showdown. So we'll take the show on the road there, hopefully tomorrow. Also, don't forget the Hawkeye Tailgate Show this weekend. We'll kick off the radio coverage of the Iowa-Indiana game on the Hawkeye Tailgate Show. It's on the Hawkeye Radio Network throughout the state of Iowa. 12:30 is when we go. If you're here in the Quad Cities, it's on Vintage 107.7 FM. WQUD, a new home for Iowa football this year. So check us out on that as well. And I mentioned that post show. Make sure you keep an eye out on Saturday. It was crazy. Last weekend, we had a Friday night show at 12:45. So really Saturday morning show at 12:45, and there were a couple thousand people watching it. So that's really awesome. It won't be late this week. It won't be nearly that late. I'm guessing game will get done around 6. I'm guessing by 7:30 or 8 o'clock, we're up rocking and rolling. So keep an eye out for it. We should have plenty to talk about. Some really good college football, really good NFL football, Ryder Cup this weekend, a lot to get to. So it should be a bunch of fun. One news and note that I wanted to pass along, and I'm excited to see this. Was it probably 2 days ago? Bruce Pearl announcing that he's stepping down at Auburn. His son, Stephen Pearl, will take the reins. Matt Gatens, named yesterday an assistant coach at Auburn, was already there, but kind of promoted to an assistant coach, and no better human being than Matt Gatens. Obviously been on Fran McCaffrey's staff for a while, former Iowa Hawkeye, former All Big Ten player, really good human being. Love to see him get a great opportunity at Auburn. So we wish Matt Gatens the best of luck moving forward. That's basketball. Basketball is coming quicker than you think. It really is. A lot of people out there thinking basketball is a ways away. It's coming fast. In fact, Jake Brend mentioned to us yesterday that 2 weeks from yesterday is Iowa State Men's Basketball Media Day. And I know Iowa's is following, and the Women's Media Day is following after that. So, man, what a great fun time of year when you cross over football and basketball. It just gets wild. It's almost like you wish there was a 2-hour show every day to talk all about it. Oh, wait, there is. Welcome to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So we'll get to the basketball stuff later on. But first, we start with football and a huge, huge game coming up this Saturday at Kinnick Stadium. So joining me right now to talk all about Saturday's huge game between the Hoosiers and the Hawkeyes is some goofy-looking fellow we know, Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report. And joining us is Zach Browning. He's the senior writer for the Hoosier for On 3 as well. Zach, thank you for doing this. We appreciate it.
Thank you guys for having me. I'm always happy to talk some Big Ten football.
Yeah, no, it's going to be a really fun Saturday in Iowa City. And I want to start with you because I think the talk of, the Big Ten is the Hoosiers. Maybe the talk of college football right now is the Hoosiers. And I want to talk to you before we talk about this year about what it's been like the last year and a half since Kirk Cignetti has come onto campus. What has that program become like? You're in the heart of it. You've seen it. What has that man meant to Indiana football right now?
Just about everything. It's really impossible probably to overstate just how much he's meant, from the city of Bloomington to the students at IU to the older folks, the alumni. there's just a joy around the football team and an interest and a hope and a belief around the football team that has really never been around Indiana football. I mean, this is the program that still has the most losses in FBS history, but none of that really matters at this point to the fans, to the team, because of what Chris Signetti has been able to do. He's done it by being himself too, which I think has stood out to a lot of people around Bloomington and around the program, is that it's not been, sure, he might be a little brazen on TV or with the media sometimes. He has some swagger, I guess you could call it. But he, in general, is just himself. He's that kind of guy. He's jokes about going and hanging out with his kids and just hanging out and watching film after games and going back up to his office for hours on hours. But I think that is what kind of stands out to people around Bloomington the most, is that he's kind of a symbol for hope and belief in this IU football program.
It's been an amazing turnaround. And Tom, we've talked about it, probably you and I, but on this show just this week, we've had Chuck Long, we've had Scott Docterman. I think Tom has compared Kirk Signetti to Hayden Fry. And I remember the Hayden Fry era. Zach, you're probably young for the Hayden Fry era, but Tommy, it's very similar when you watch what Signetti's done in Indiana and what happened in Iowa City 40-some years ago, probably.
Yeah, when Hayden came to Iowa City in '79, Iowa was in the midst of a 20-year losing streak, and Hayden had to change the mentality of Iowa fans that you could win here. We're going to win here, and that's what Hayden's message was, and he did it with swagger and but with substance. He went out and got players and made Iowa football exciting. Again, for the first time in 2 decades, and 3 years later, he was in a Rose Bowl. So yeah, Chuck and I talked about that on Monday on our podcast, and it is true. I mean, there are some similarities there, just with the kind of the bravado, if you will, and they're kind of, Signetti and Hayden Fry were disruptors in the Big Ten. When Hayden came in, it was Michigan and Ohio State ruling the Big Ten. Every year it was one of those two. They just would trade off going to the Rose Bowl. And Hayden Fry made it possible for everybody to go to a Rose Bowl because he disrupted things. And Signetti's doing the same thing, going to the college football playoff. Or Indiana, nobody had Indiana going to CFP last year. No one, except Curt Signetti, probably believed it. But I don't know if his players even believed it. But there they were, and they've got a team that could go back to the college football playoff this year if they keep playing the way they're playing right now.
Zach, I want to talk about that before we talk about this year and this game. But he came in and did what he did last year. And I think the belief around college football, maybe on the outside looking in, was that was cute, that was cool, it was a great story, but it's not going to be sustainable. And it has been through 4 games. What was the thoughts in Bloomington after last year? Were the fan base bought in, obviously, but did they trust it moving forward, or was it still wait and see? I'm a Lions fan, so I understand long-term losing, Zach. I'm not used to them winning. Have they bought in, and are they used to and trusting of what Indiana football is right now?
It's hard not to be trusting just because of the guy that's at the helm of the program, but at the same time, there was a lot of skepticism coming into the year. If we think in recent Indiana football history, there was a glimpse of hope back in 2020, obviously a shortened season with COVID and everything, but Indiana was great in that year. Tom Allen was great in that year. He earned himself a big-time contract extension for what he did that season. Coming into the 2021 season, Indiana was ranked. Expectations were high. People were hoping for a bowl game, and then you come out in the opener against Iowa and get destroyed in that opener against Iowa to begin 2021, and obviously only won 2 games that year. So there was some skepticism, to say the least, that maybe this team and maybe Curt Signetti was just going to fall into that same boat of the 2020 and then 2021 Tom Allen-led teams. But clearly that has not been the case. And I think the first 3 weeks of the season, you started to feel a little bit more belief that this team was legit and it wasn't just a one-hit wonder last year. But I think last week, obviously with the evisceration of Illinois, that's when not only the college football world from a national perspective, but from the people here in Bloomington, they were like really understanding of, you know what, this is for real. This is I don't want to say the new norm, because obviously it's only been a year and a half, but it's trending that direction at least.
And I want to stay with that game with you, Zach, because we're right here in the Quad Cities, and this is Iowa and Illinois country. So a lot of Illini fans were watching that. I thought Indiana was the better team. I don't think anybody expected 63-10. What did you see, and what was your thoughts coming in? I mean, you weren't thinking 53-point victory, but what were your thoughts going in, and did they? I mean, obviously, they exceeded expectations.
The consensus from those that have seen Indiana football consistently to begin this year, I think, was Indiana was probably the better team and at least going to win that game since they were at home. You know, if that game's in Champaign, maybe the thoughts were a little bit different. The outcome probably a little bit different as far as the total score and stuff. But I think I had a 2-score win for IU is what I was thinking going into the game. And obviously even that was nowhere close. I think the only man on the planet, and I guess the players too, is Kurt Snetti, though, that thought that Indiana could do that like they did. And it's similar to what Indiana did last year. I mean, you think back to last year with the Nebraska game, there were plenty of people picking Indiana to lose that game, and Indiana beat them 56-7. Same with the Washington game on College Game Day. That was there was a lot of people going back and forth. You know, maybe the Indiana, this is finally where they get got, and obviously Indiana won that one by multiple scores as well. So I think just in general, I just saw all three phases of the game Indiana dominated. Of course, offensively, Fernando Mendoza only threw 2 incompletions. He was spectacular. And it really starts up front for Indiana on both sides, and it did start up front on both sides against the Illini. You know, sacking Luke Altmaier 7 times, the 10 tackles for a loss, that's domination. That's going to get it done no matter who you're playing, no matter when you're playing them and where you're playing them. And then the other side of the ball, Indiana not only being able to protect Fernando Mendoza, he was sacked once on the opening drive of the game and wasn't really sacked again or wasn't under too much pressure throughout the rest of the game. And then, of course, Indiana rushing for 300-plus yards for the 4th straight game to begin the season. It starts up front for Indiana, and the way they were able to dominate Illinois in the trenches on both sides of the ball was really telling to me and to a lot of people that were watching that game.
Zach Browning from the Hoosier and Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report joining him right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. Tom, I want to bring you in because you looked and you watched what they did, and a lot of times you see this, and maybe with Rutgers it was that way where they threw the ball around and it was impressive that they could throw the ball. But Indiana, I think people see the points and they think they just sling it around. Over 300 yards rushing. What were your thoughts of what you saw from Indiana on Saturday? Because it's a balanced offense and it's a good up front in the trenches offense. I don't think people expect that from Indiana, but that's what it was.
Hey, by the way, and Matt, I mentioned this to you last night when we were at dinner, was with John Mateer out, the new leader for the Heisman Trophy, at least in the betting markets, is Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah.
Which just, I mean, who would have thought that? But that was, and I've mentioned this, I think, before with you, Matt, that Iowa did inquire about Mendoza when he was on the market because they were looking for a quarterback. But obviously with, Mendoza's brother at Indiana, it was probably a done deal pretty much that he was going to end up in Bloomington. But the thing that impresses you about Indiana is they do it on all 3 phases. I mean, they block a punt early. They've done it on all 3 phases, and that's how Iowa's made their hay over the years, and that's how Iowa was able to beat Rutgers. With the Caden Weegan taking a kickoff back for 100 yards to start the game. You've got to be able to execute in all 3 phases, and that's what Cignetti's done. I get the sense reading some of Cignetti's comments, and Zach, I'm curious your view. I think he's got a little more respect for Iowa than maybe he did for Illinois. He probably wasn't sharing that disrespect towards Illinois, but you could tell afterwards that he didn't think a whole lot of them. But it seems like this week he's got a lot of respect for Kirk Ferentz.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And it was telling. It was one of those kind of funny moments after the Illinois game. Kurt Snetti was asked, what kind of statement did this performance make to the country? And he pretty much said, I don't really care what statement it made. Everybody on the outside can kind of go with that. And then he looked to his left to his sports information director here at IU, and he said, "I want to say it, but I'm not going to," almost insinuating that he had more to say on that front and on the how challenging was Illinois of an opponent front. But obviously he kept his lips shut on that one. But I think you're exactly right with the respect that he gives not only Kirk Ferentz, the respect that he has for Kinnick and how loud that place can get, and the respect he has for how Kirk Ferentz has done it and kind of the build and the makeup of Iowa football. I mean, you talked about these two teams are similar as far as all three phases of the game. There is really few teams over the last couple of years and last 2 decades that have embodied like the all three phases type of mantra like Iowa football, with the ability to shut down people with the defense. And then the offense has been up and down, I know, as of late, but the special teams is always good at Iowa. And I think that's kind of not the model, because Curt Cignetti wants to build his own model and wants to do his own thing. But if there was a team in the Big Ten, maybe it's an older version of Wisconsin in the 2010s, or like in Iowa, you want to be strong in the trenches, have that quarterback that can get things done, and then kind of be a solid team in all three phases. So I think Curt Cignetti has plenty of respect, not just for Kirk Ferentz, but for what he's done, how he builds his team, how his team's played, and especially Kinnick. I mean, Indiana fans know well the struggles that teams, and especially ranked teams, can have at times in Iowa City.
Zach, I wanted to, you kind of talked about the thought process of the Iowa program. What do you guys see? What do you see when it comes to this Iowa football team? And obviously there's some strength in the trenches. The offensive line's really good. There's a new quarterback that's getting better and wins a lot. What are the things that Indiana fans are talking about, or yourself at your site, when it comes to what to expect from this year's Iowa Hawkeyes?
I will say, even particularly for this game, there's a lot of Indiana fans, whether it's on social media or just talking to them in person, that do fear this could be a little bit of a trap game for Indiana, considering you're coming in riding off the high of a 53.7 touchdown victory over a top 10 team. You've got a bye week in the week ahead, and then you play another top 10 team in the country in Oregon. So there's a little bit of a feel that this could be a trap game for Indiana. Now, obviously, I don't think Curt Cignetti lets that kind of mindset seep into his program. That's not what he's built this program on. But if you look at Iowa, and for me, it starts with the offensive line, because obviously Indiana was able to sack Luke Altmaier 7 times. They had 10 tackles for a loss. So I'm interested to see how legit, I guess, or how real Indiana's pass rush is. If they can do that, obviously maybe not 7 sacks, 10 tackles for a loss, but if you can get 3-4 sacks on Mark Gronowski, who not only is playing behind a good offensive line, but is mobile enough to avoid pressure when he needs to, that would be very telling if I was Indiana, that you can be able to get that kind of pressure. Because if I look at Iowa, if I'm on the outside, I'm on the Indiana side of things. From an IU perspective, it's that offensive line, it's the running game, it's the concern about Mark Gronowski and how much he's going to hurt you with his legs, because Indiana struggled a little bit with running quarterbacks and mobile quarterbacks so far this year. And then on the other side, defensively, it's maybe not so much the passing game, because I think Indiana fans take into account that Rutgers just threw for 300-plus yards on the Iowa defense, and Indiana believes that they have a better passing attack than Rutgers. But can Indiana run the ball? Because this is a team that's rushed for 300-plus yards, as we mentioned, in 4 straight games. Are they going to be able to do that? Are they going to be able to run the ball enough to set up the pass against an Iowa defense that has always been good? As long as I can remember, the Iowa defense has always been good. And then in the return game, you're going to try and keep it away from Caden Weechin, but what happens in the off chance that he gets a return? Does he break it? Can he be sound enough on special teams to kind of limit him if in the off chance Indiana does kick it to him, he tries to make a play? So I think there's some concern about the trap game, obviously, but again, as I said, it's hard not to believe in what Curt Cignetti is doing, and hard not to kind of believe that Indiana can take care of business in a game that will be tough.
Tommy, I want to come to you because you've watched Indiana, you've learned about them as well, and I think you see the 63 points and the that side of things. They held Illinois to 10 points. And so talk to me about that side of the football as well, because I think people just expect Indiana to come in and score a bunch of points. They've played good defense, but the Iowa offense, I know this is going to sound crazy, it's looked better. Talk to me about that matchup as well, because I think people are looking Indiana offense versus Iowa defense and that kind of thing. Flip that for me, because you got a pretty decent Indiana defense and an improving Iowa offense as well.
Yeah, and I think this Indiana defense is better than the one that they had last year. Some of those games where they were challenged a little bit, they gave up more points. They just did. And I think this defense has got more capabilities to it. It's got more high impact plays in it. Zach mentioned the sacks and the tackles for loss. They're creating turnovers. They're gonna capitalize on them. I think they're more opportunistic this year. Iowa's only got the one turnover by Gronowski so far, and that was on a play where Caden Weegan slipped against Iowa State. So we'll see what that looks like. Iowa's got to take care of the ball. One of the big things still, Jackson Rexroth got that interception, but Iowa's only got one turnover created this year on their defense, by their defense. So that's just abnormal. They have not had that in the past. They've created a lot more turnovers on defense, but I think Iowa's got to take care of the ball. They've got to be able to run the football. If Iowa's going to win, the best way to slow down that Indiana offense is for them to be standing on the sidelines next to Kurt Cignetti. And that means 7-8 minute drives where you're grinding it out. Talked to Gronowski the other day, and also talked to wide receiver coach John Budmeyer today, and they both kind of indicated Indiana's set up defensively in the secondary where they just don't give up big plays. They're taking away the big plays. They're going to make you earn it, and so those over the top plays when they're there, you got to make them, and there may be opportunities like 3 or 4 times to maybe go up top on them. But otherwise, they're going to play a defensive coverage that's going to limit that opportunity. So you just take what they're given and try to make a 5-yard pass into a 10-yard gain. Those sorts of things are going to be critical for Iowa to sustain those drives and to make the Indiana defense work like they did the Rutgers defense on Friday night. They made them work. They drove the ball a lot, and that was key to and then Rutgers, I think, just kind of tired out, and then Iowa hit one over the top and ended up pulling away for a 10-point win.
Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report and Zach Browning from the Hoosier joining me right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo, kind of previewing a huge game, a homecoming game this weekend in Kinnick Stadium. I want to ask both of you, and we'll start with you, Zach. If the Hoosiers are to win this weekend, what does it look like? What do they have to do? What do they have to guard against? Give me the recipe for victory for Indiana this weekend at Kinnick Stadium.
Yeah, I think we'll start defensively. It starts by limiting, obviously, the run game, but more specifically what Gronowski is able to do with his legs. If we think back to the opener for IU, they gave up 2 75-plus yard touchdown runs to the Old Dominion quarterback. So you got to be able to limit what Gronowski is able to do with his legs, not only just rushing the football, but extending plays to then pass the football. So if you can contain Gronowski in the pocket, then you can allow your secondary to do its work in pass coverage. You can allow the linebackers to maybe join some blitzes and whatnot. And then you got to limit the explosive plays. Yes, Indiana's defense is built around giving you 3-4 yards and then rallying to the football. But if there's been an Achilles heel for the Indiana defense, and Illinois even exploded it for one play, a 59-yard touchdown pass, Indiana has given up some more explosive plays this season. And if you ask Kurt Cignetti, it's because of a lack of communication in the secondary, specifically with the safeties. So we'll see if Indiana can kind of limit those. So far this year, outside of the Indiana State game against an FCS opponent, Indiana's given up big plays to pretty much every opponent. And when I say big play, I mean 25, 30-plus yard play here and there. So nothing crazy. Obviously, Illinois burned them for a 59-yard touchdown. But then offensively, it's just got to be balanced. It can't be 75-25 pass to rush or rush to pass. It's got to be balanced. You have to be able to, if Indiana, they love their RPO game. If you want to run that RPO game, you have to be a threat to run the ball. You have to be a threat to kind of hit the defense over the top. So if you can control the offensive line and control Iowa's defensive front, not allow some of those playmakers to kind of get going and get Fernando Mendoza off his spot, that's the key to success for Indiana. And I'll throw in a bonus one. You can't kick the ball to Caden Weegan. We've already seen how dangerous he is. If you're Indiana, the kickoff shouldn't be much of an issue. IU's kickoff specialist has done a good job of booting the football through the back of the end zone. But as far as punts are concerned, and Indiana hasn't punted a ton this year, but you got to keep the ball away from him, because I know Kurt Cignetti is concerned and has Keaton Weechin circled at the top of the scouting report to keep the ball out of his hands.
Yeah, the two-time defending special teams player of the week. Tommy, I'll go to you. You mentioned a little bit about it, but if Iowa was to pull the upset and win this game at Kinnick Stadium on homecoming, giving them that signature victory, we've talked a lot that, Iowa gets 3 college football teams from last year, college football playoff teams at Kinnick Stadium.
Yeah.
This is the first of 3. And for a while, I think a lot of Iowa fans thought this was the most winnable. After watching what we watched last Saturday, I think that may have changed some things. But what does it look like? If Iowa's going to win this, what does it have to look like on Saturday?
Well, like Zach said, Iowa can't give up those explosive plays, and that's what Indiana does. They're good at explosives, and they'll get some big plays, and you cannot give those. The Phil Parker stat of, if it's 2 or less, they give up 14 points a game. If it's 3 or more, you give up 28 points a game. And that's over an extended period of time. So it's just proven. So you've got to limit those explosive over 25 yards to 2 or less. And you can track those during the game at home. If you folks are watching at Kinnick, you can track it yourself. Iowa, on offense, spin the clock, run the football, don't turn it over. If you limit your mistakes and you're able to run the ball and move the ball, you're going to have a shot. And, there's just, I'm curious how Indiana's, if Iowa can make it a 4-quarter game and put that into the 4th quarter, you always wonder how a team reacts to that when you're in those situations. And Indiana on the road, they haven't been there yet this year. This is a new team. I think Mendoza is way better than Curtis Rourke, and I thought Curtis Rourke was really good. But I think Mendoza is he's playing his way into being, maybe not a first-round pick, but maybe a 2nd-round pick. He's really good, and he's experienced, and he's played in big-time football when he was at Cal. He played in the Pac-12 when there was a Pac-12, and he's been in big environments, so he knows what this is like. Curtis Rourke was coming from Ohio University and in the MAC, and so the Big Ten and playing in these big environments was totally different for him. This guy's legit good pro talent, and he's playing at a really high level. So Iowa's going to have their hands full because the secondary's been sketchy at times. It's had its struggles, especially the one. TJ Hall, I think, has played terrific football, but the other side with Deshaun Lee, we'll see how long he lasts in there. I think he's going to start, but Jalen Watson might have to go in there. They might have to play some dime coverage, try to do some different things. Jackson Rexroth out there, former safety turned linebacker. He may be out there in coverage more because Jaden Harrell struggles in coverage. So that's Iowa's just got to no explosives, don't turn the ball over, run the football, and that'll give you a shot.
Couple things. I do think that Mendoza might be the best quarterback Iowa faces this year. I really, truly think and believe that. Iowa's got to get some turnovers. I feel like they gotta, if they hold serve and it's even, I don't know if that's enough. So I think they need to break through somehow when it comes to turnovers, and obviously get Kinnick rocking as well. Prediction time, fellas. You gotta put your money where your mouth is. Although I'm not taking any money. We'll start with you, Zach. Give me a final score and give me a player of the game. Give me a guy that If Indiana wins, it's Mendoza or whatever. Give me a final and then maybe a player of the game.
The final is difficult. I know. I think IU wins this game. I think IU avoids kind of the trap game idea that this game could be. I think Indiana is the more talented team in this football game, and as scary as Kinnick can be at times, I think this Indiana team is better than last year's team and gets it done on the road. I'll go a final score prediction of 31-14, we'll say. And I think Indiana's player of the game, I'll go with a little bit of a curveball here. I'll say wide receiver Omar Cooper, because as Tom's mentioned a couple of times, the cornerback situation for Iowa can be a little bit shaky at times. So if you're focusing your attention and that top guy is on Elijah Surratt on one side of the field, that leaves Omar Cooper open, or more more open, I guess I would say, on the other side of the field. So I think Omar Cooper could have a big day. He's already had a day with 200-plus receiving yards and multiple scores in a game this season. That was against an FCS opponent, but still, he's got the talent. And look for some yards after the catch if Omar Cooper has it going.
Tommy, what do you got? No, real quick,
well,
before you started this season, you had this as a
win.
Okay. Go on. I'm
I
just
had
curious.
a win for Iowa. So
Okay.
I'm sticking to my preseason predictions, which makes Matt crazy because he thinks that I should alter my plans, and
No, I say
don't.
and don't. I think you should stick with what you have. But go ahead.
Yeah, I'll homer it a bit. Full disclosure, homer it a bit. But I think I wrote something that'll get published. It's publishing Thursday morning, so people can read it. And I've got Caden Weegan taking one to the house again, third straight game.
Whew.
So he's on a heater. He's Tim Dwight. He's Tim Dwight. He's the modern day Tim Dwight.
So give me that final score prediction.
27-24 Iowa.
All right. So Tom's got Iowa winning by a field goal. Full disclosure, Zach, I do the pregame show for Iowa, so I have to.
He always
pick the
has. He
Hawkeyes.
has to pick that.
It's in the contract, I think. So I'll go Hawkeyes as well. Before we let you go, Zach, you've never been to Kinnick. I know you're going. What have you heard? What do you expect? And I, as a media guy that's been around to a lot of stadiums, and Tom has as well, and I'm sure you're getting there too. I appreciate going elsewhere and seeing what it's like other places. What have you heard about Kinnick? What do you expect about Kinnick coming up on Saturday?
I expect it to be loud. I expect it to be very loud and very rambunctious. I know it's homecoming weekend, so I'm sure that will add to the noise. And I went to Ohio Stadium last year, went to the Shoe for that IU-Ohio State game. Was at the college football playoff game in South Bend. Those were two of the loudest environments I've ever heard. And while it might not reach the decibel level of those two places, just sheer factor that there's 30,000 less people and whatnot, I do expect this to be one of the tougher places Indiana has played and will play even this season, and that's with road games against Oregon and Penn State. So I think I'm just excited. I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to hear it. I'm excited to live it, and I think it'll be a good game, and I think it'll be a loud, raucous environment that I can't wait. But everything I've heard growing up around Indiana, I grew up in central Indiana. I know about Iowa. I know about the history of Kinnick and what happens to ranked teams when they go into Kinnick. Obviously, I think it's 10 straight, though, that Iowa's lost to ranked teams. But I do know the history. I know what happens when ranked teams go into Kinnick and feel a little overzealous. So I think Indiana will avoid that. But I'm excited for what is to come this weekend.
And Zach, tell Iowa fans that are watching this around the state of Iowa, here in Illinois as well, and they're wondering about Indiana and the game and previews and learning about the Hoosiers before the game on Saturday. How do they get your content? How can they check out some of the things when it comes to preview-wise for the Hoosiers as well?
Yeah, we've got plenty of preview content over at thehoosier.com. You just type into your favorite search bar, thehoosier.com, and you'll be able to find our website with all of the content from me and my colleagues previewing this weekend's matchup from an Indiana perspective. I know there's a story up there on what Kirk Ferentz said yesterday about Indiana and how impressive Indiana has looked and how impressive Chris Signetti is as well. So if you want maybe a little bit more of an Iowa perspective on an IU site, you can head over to there as well. And also, if you can't figure it out on the Hoosier.com, you can head over to X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it, and just type in Zach Browning 17. That's my Twitter handle, and you can find all the content there as well.
Awesome. Zach, we appreciate you. Tom, Hawkeye Report, rocking and rolling. Make sure you tell people how to get your content as well. I know. See, the difference, Zach, is Tom's like the face of it, but he's got everybody else doing the work. He's just the old guy that goes to the games. He's smart. Tommy, tell people about the Hawkeye Report before we let you guys go.
Dazzo, it's work smarter, not harder.
I know
that's the motto.
I know it.
Zach, write that down, young man.
I'm noting it. Writing it down.
Grandpa Tommy's giving life advice. Good old Grandpa Tommy.
Giving life advice on the show. I'm not a grandpa yet, just a dad.
There you go.
Go to Hawkeye Report. We're going to have a lot of stuff. There's some women's basketball news. I know the Indiana Hoosiers got a big commitment Thursday. Iowa's got some stuff rumbling. Kyle Huseman's all over that. And so we've got a lot of stuff percolating. I'm sure current Indiana student Talia Goodman will be all over it too, all over our coverage over at On3. So we got it covered. Women's basketball, men's basketball, big weekend. Some stuff going up about that. A big recruiting weekend for the Hawkeyes, and wall-to-wall coverage. Plus, Daz will be doing a podcast late at night or late sometime on Saturday night.
We'll have it all covered for you guys. And I appreciate you both. Tommy, I'll see you soon.
Yep.
Zach, I'll look for you at Kinnick Stadium. I can't wait to see you in person and enjoy the weekend. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right. That is Zach Browning and Tom Kakert. Zach Browning from the Hoosier and Tom Kakert from the Hawkeye Report previewing Iowa and Indiana. It'll be a big game coming up this Saturday at Kinnick Stadium. Kick time is set for 2:30. Don't forget you can start it off with us and the Hawkeye Radio Network. It's the Hawkeye Tailgate Show from Kraus Family Plaza. 12:30 is when we'll kick that off. Great show lined up for you guys once again as well. So stop by Kraus Family Plaza, say hi, and then get ready for the game. It should be a good one between the Hawkeyes and the Hoosiers. So we got more to get to. Coming up after this break, we'll talk a little Illinois football, the other side of the big matchup from last Saturday. Jim Mattson, our good friend down in Peoria, will join us to talk Illini football and much more. You're watching Off Day with Matt Randazzo on a Thursday right here in the Quad Cities. All right, be honest. Are you craving Hungry Hobo again? You know, that fresh sliced meat piled high on those amazing sandwiches, hot off the grill chicken and steak with all those delicious toppings, the biggest and best selection of baked potatoes, or simply some waffle fries dipped in cheese. Well, now that Quad City favorite is even easier to get. Download the Hungry Hobo app today. Order ahead, skip the line, and earn rewards all at the same time. There's Double Points Monday and exclusive specials as well. With 12 locations in the Quad City area, it's Hungry Hobo. Now even easier to find, but still hard to resist.
Rafferty Funeral Home, dedicated to serving families in the Quad Cities since 2007.
Hi, welcome. Here, come on in.
An experienced staff plans each service to reflect the unique life and legacy of your loved one. Rafferty Funeral Home is proud to serve our community with dignity, respect, and compassion, helping you to celebrate your traditions and lasting memories no matter your faith, culture, or budget. Rafferty Funeral Home in Moline. Call today to discuss prearrangements.
When it comes to quality, convenient pizza, Godfather's Pizza in Silvis has you covered. Featuring a beautiful dine-in area, delivery, and a carry-out window. Godfather's Pizza is that pizza you grew up with, not a convenience store. You see, at Godfather's Pizza, the dough is made fresh daily. That mozzarella cheese is shredded fresh and never frozen. And those toppings are abundantly piled high each and every time. Locally owned and operated since 2010, Godfather's is a huge supporter of local athletes right here in the Quad Cities. So come on by and check them out at 1211 Avenue of the Cities in Silvis. Order online at godfathers.com and reunite with that same delicious pizza you grew up with. Welcome back to Off Day with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. It's been a rough week for Illini fans and for Illini Nation. A lot of anticipation last week. A big game with Indiana. Didn't go the way I don't think anyone expected. So let's kind of put that game to rest and move on to another huge game. You know, big noon kickoff against USC coming up this Saturday in Champaign. So talk about the Illini. We're joined now by our good friend Jim Mattson. And Jim, I don't think anyone in the state of Illinois, I don't know about the nation, would have picked that score on Saturday. Your thoughts, I guess, overall on what happened on Saturday?
Yeah, I was shocked. I mean, I thought there was a chance Indiana Speed might be able to win by 2 touchdowns, 34-20, something like that. But I did not anticipate the complete domination. And, I told you a couple of weeks ago that it was so lofty for Illinois to be in the top 10. It was hard for me to believe that Illinois had a top 10 football program. And boy, it's hard to believe now too. I mean, all the doubts have crept in. Maybe they're not athletic enough. Maybe they're not good enough. And you mentioned there on your lead-in, what Illinois needs to do is run on the field again. They need to play again. They, football, you sit on that game for a whole week, and it has not been a very good game. If you're only as good as your last game, it's been a long week for Illini fans, the Illini team, and I'll be very I'm very confident they're going to come out and play really well against USC. USC is very athletic. It's going to be a problem, but I think Illinois is ready to flush that one away and get back on the home field and forget about that game.
Yeah, Jim, you look at it too, and I don't think I've broken down the game with anybody. I think it's one of those things where it was, but you look at it and they had the special teams miscue and a touchdown, and then boom, they come back and score a touchdown. At that point, I said game on. I'm watching it going, okay, this is going to be good. Kind of talk about that because they took that first punch and punched back, and then there wasn't much punching after that. Just kind of talk about the way that beginning kind of happened.
Yeah, I mean, when Illinois scored on the long pass, and Indiana obviously had a blown coverage at 7-7, you thought it would be a track meet. Well, it was a track meet, but Illinois couldn't keep up with them. I mean, we've been to track meets where one team is much faster, more athletic, and that part kind of jumped out at me how athletic Indiana was. That probably surprised me more than anything. I was really caught off guard by the athleticism of Indiana against Illinois. But what really shocked me was the offensive line for Illinois versus the defensive line for Indiana. And we saw a little bit of flaws in the Duke game, and I for an experienced Illinois offensive line, that bothered us a little bit. That they didn't communicate well and they got blown up a little bit. But boy, Indiana manhandled them, and that really scares you because you thought that would be a strength of this team. You thought Bielema and the Illini would want to run the ball, and they had 2 yards rushing in that game. I know the sacks factored into that, but they couldn't dictate with their offensive line. They couldn't dictate with their linemen at all, and they couldn't keep up with the speed of Indiana. So I've always thought Illinois is going to have a really hard time beating an Ohio State, beating an Oregon. But even the really good Iowa.
Jim, I've had people ask me, and I don't know how to answer this question. They've said, did Illinois quit on Saturday? And I get it. It's 42-10. After, go halftime, it's 35-10. They score quickly, and I don't want to say they quit at all. But I know Indiana didn't because that's their coach and Signetti and all those kind of things. So, one, do you feel like the second half felt that way? And then two, they didn't quit on the season. This week's going to be a lot different. Just your thoughts on not body language, but that you look up at the scoreboard, it's tough to do. It's just human nature.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to say human nature. I know lots of Illinois fans who went to the game. I know lots of longtime season ticket holders who watched the game. We all had the option to turn the game off, and most Illinois fans did. And the Illini human nature is, God, can we just leave? Can we get out of the stadium? Can we get out of here? And Indiana's having the time of their life and playing John Cougar Mellencamp and scoring touchdowns and fireworks. And, we've seen that. It's the old Super Bowl thing. One team's like, well, we can't win. And they get down on themselves. And, I don't think there was a quit as much as there was a realization that, oh, my gosh, this is embarrassing. We still have another quarter to play, another half to play. So I think they lost some fight. I don't think they necessarily quit. I think they lost some energy and some fight for sure. The scoreboard will do that to you. But you're right. I mean, big picture, I keep saying homecoming, sellout, national TV. Yeah, the season's far from over. Now, you lose to USC, and the college football playoffs can be really, really hard to attain. But the things that are on the table this Saturday are still very, very exciting.
No, absolutely. Jim Mattson joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. One of my favorite college football guys is Scott Docterman. We had him on the show. He's with The Athletic. Yeah. He was in Bloomington on Great Saturday job. Night, and he said he thinks this week is Brett Bielema's biggest challenge. And really telling, and he kind of said he thinks he will probably, but pull a page from Kirk Ferentz, and Kirk Ferentz never that bounce back game is always a bounce back game. Never getting back on track is really something that Kirk does pretty well, and he's like, let's see what Brett does because. Boy, this is when you talk about it. It's a slippery slope. You lose this game, Purdue's playing a little better. You got Ohio State coming. You still got a trip to Wash. It can go two different ways, and you know that in sports. How big is this week? And I don't know if there's a coach maybe more prepared to do it than Brett Bielema when it comes to culture building and that kind of stuff. How big is this week when it comes to Illinois preparation-wise as they get ready for USC?
Well, I mean, this is a team that was all in on being a national playoff team. And if they lose this game with Ohio State looming, it's going to be very hard to rally the troops and rally the fans and rally the nation that this season is at best going to be a disappointment. I mean, a slight disappointment. So yeah, it's a huge, huge game. And it was a defeated team. And I mentioned that I human nature as a fan and human nature as an Illinois alum is to start doubting. Maybe they're not that good. Maybe they were a fraud. I keep hearing the word fraud. Illinois was a top 10 fraud. Well, those are challenging words to Bielema, and I'm sure Illinois will rise up and play well, but I am worried about the perimeter athletes. I am worried about the USC talent. And, I predicted Illinois to go 8-4 this year. I thought they were going to play a lot of 50-50 games. I thought Duke would be 50-50. I thought Indiana. I thought USC, Washington, Ohio State, they're an underdog. But, it's hard to win those 50-50 games, but they've got to win this game for the rest of the season to seem big. I mean, there was so much buildup for the Ohio State game, and I kept saying, boy, they got to get through Indiana. They got to get through Duke. They got to get through USC. Well, USC is the next one up. And if they beat USC, there's a lot of goodwill and a lot of good feeling and a lot of excitement. But if they lose that, it just – a lot of the luster of the season will certainly be gone. But you're right. The confidence of the team, that was a beating. I mean, that was the old woodshed. I mean, they just got handed it for 60 minutes, and I'm sure they'll rally, but we don't know where they are with injuries, and we don't know where they are with, how they'll react. And you're right, Brett Bielema. I think Bielema will have them ready to play, but we'll see.
Yeah. You mentioned offensive line already. The two things that bugged me were the offensive line, and not as much their own fault, but the back end on defense and the secondary when it comes to injuries. I thought it was an awful targeting call. And I know I get it. Yeah. Like it's the whatever, but like, it's really hard nowadays to tackle anybody without getting in trouble doing it. We talked a little bit about the offensive line, and that's a concern. Back end secondary wise, health wise, and those things. How does Illinois get past and through that against a team that's going to throw the football a lot in USC?
Yeah, they're going to throw the ball all over the yard. It's supposed to be 80 degrees like 11 in the morning. So, I think they're going to feel right at home, a California team coming in and throwing the football. So, obviously, with the list of injuries was, 6 out of 7 at the end of the game are out of the defensive backs. You're playing without Xavier Scott the rest of the year. That's a huge loss. Yeah, the targeting call. I hate the targeting call. I think 15 yard. I mean, I understand the safety of the game, but you're hitting a moving target, and you're out for the rest of the game and the half of the next game. It just seems crazy to me. There's no other sport where you're taking all Americans off the field for, what was, I don't think dirty. I mean, I don't think there's anything malicious about it. It just happens. You're trying to get to a point to make a tackle, and I just hate that this sport we're taking such great athletes off the field and in big games, and so I do hate that targeting part of it, but. I thought Illinois was exposed in that defensive secondary quite a bit in that game, even when some of their better players were on the field. And your tackling was exposed. And, yeah, the defense really has to show up because, Indiana scored on 7 straight drives. They could not stop the Hoosiers. And USC's got to be licking their chops. And, I stayed up. I watched the USC-Michigan State game, and they reminded me a lot of Indiana. They've got good weapons on the outside. They got a quarterback that gets rid of the ball quick. They do a lot of formations. I mean, it's a tough team to prepare for. So, hopefully Illinois has got the right mindset and the right health to be ready to take on another very high-powered offense.
Jim, you have an amazing radio show. You have the pulse of Illini Nation. You get it. And I think I asked you 1 or 2 times ago when you were on, is Illinois fans trusting? Do they believe it yet? You kind of chuckled. Well, then this is what happens, and you're like, now I can't go. It's a trust issue thing. Where's the fan base? I know there's so much excitement, and there should still be more. I mean, it's such a long season. You get things turned back around. You look at Indiana, and you think, man, what was that? That was an aberration of what we are. What are the fans like right now? Is it like sound the alarms, or are they okay? It's kind of take me through the pulse of fans. And fans are short for fanatics, so we get it, we understand it. But what's it look like right now?
I think fans are fanatics, but I think they're also you are who you're a fan of, and Illini fans kind of expect disappointment. And that game was remarkably disappointing, and it does feel like maybe last year was a fluke. And I think Illini fans are very worried that last year was just an aberration, and that they can't compete with the top end of the Big Ten. And I had more than one fan say it was the most disappointing Illinois football loss they can remember. I mean, it really was. To lose would be one thing. To lose competitive would be one thing. To just get blown out of the stadium on national TV, it was tough to take. And, Illinois fans will be resilient and come back to the stadium. But I do think doubt has crept in. And I had more than one fan say to me that, come Monday, Brad Underwood had his press conference. And that's kind of what we're conditioned to as Illinois fans. About week 5, we start thinking about basketball. And we weren't hoping that was the case. And last year we had the nice joyride through New Year's Day and the bowl game. And but I think Illini fans, the Illini fans I know are in real panic mode. And oh my gosh, maybe we're not who we thought we were.
Jim, last Saturday, I watched a lot of college football. And the big reason why is Iowa was on Friday. And so I had a Saturday where I didn't have to go work and do that. And you mentioned I stayed up late. I was impressed with USC. They're a good football team. Take me to this week. And I think above everything, a fast start is so important for Illinois. Give me some keys to victory for this week. And is a fast start and getting that taste out of their mouth, is that one of them in order to be successful on Saturday?
Yeah, I think a fast start is important. I think it's important to keep the crowd in the game and to keep the energy on the field. I think they've got to run the football. I think that offensive line's got to run the football. I think they've got to slow down the game. I don't think they want to get into a track meet with USC. I think they want to have long possessions. I hate to say it, but if the offensive line is not good, this is not a good Illinois team. That offensive line needs to be a strength of this team starting Saturday. They need to be able to run the ball. They need to be able to control the clock. I mean, I don't think anybody ever thought Brett Bielema had, 22 Ohio State players or 22 Oregon players. Illinois is not going to win a lot of athletic track meets or decathlons with this group. They've got to play kind of not so much plotting, but they've got to play a running football physical style. And that was the alarming thing, is the offensive line. They need that offensive line. They need to run the football. And, yeah, I think a big early start is important for the fan base, for the tickers of the fans. But I think they have got to run the ball. I think they've got to, they're going to have to slow down Ohio State in a couple weeks. They're going to have to slow down Washington when they go to Seattle. They have got to get the running game going.
Jim, you look at this, and it's a West Coast team coming to the Midwest. Right. I think that's a huge advantage, especially with an earlier start or an 11 a.m. start. Kind of talk about that as well, because it's documented. It's not just hey, I bet you there. I mean, you look at the records, and West Coast teams have trouble coming to this side and playing earlier games. Thoughts on that? Is that a factor, and is that something Illinois can take advantage of?
Yeah, I do think it's a factor now. I remember USC beating Illinois in basketball. I think it was an early start, so it's not out of the question. But I do think travel is a huge factor and a huge disadvantage for USC. And I told you after the Big Ten tournament, I don't think the USC, UCLA, Washington, and Oregon coaches like being in this conference. I mean, I really don't. They like the money and they like the Big Ten network and the exposure, but they don't like traveling like this and traveling 2 time zones and playing at crazy times. And so yeah, we see it in the NFL. You travel from East Coast to West Coast, it's hard. West Coast to East Coast. I think it is an advantage for Illinois. And again, that goes back to the fast start. Get on them early, and maybe they're thinking about lunch or sleep or whatever, and maybe you can bury them early. But I don't expect Illinois to bury them. But I think that is a factor. I would not feel very good about this game if Illinois were playing at, what time was the Michigan State game? 10 p.m.
Yeah.
Illinois time last week. I think it is. Anytime you adjust, things change. It's difficult.
A few more for Jim Mattson before we let him go. Give me a prediction. Do you feel like Illinois bounces back? I do. I feel like they bounce back. I think it's close regardless. You wish it wasn't a talented USC team, but can they get the job done? What does it look like on Saturday? And what do they need to do in order to get the job done on Saturday as well?
Well, I think they have to run the football. I think they have to get some turnovers. They have to get some impact plays. I think USC is going to throw the ball up. They're making a lot of plays. If Illinois can, Gabe, you get a strip sack, and Gabe had a rough game too. The defensive line, there were not a lot of impact defensive plays in the game. I think Illinois is going to steal a possession, steal a score. I think USC is more athletic, and I think Illinois, I don't know if they can beat them in a track meet, in a high-scoring game. So I think Illinois wants the game in the 20s, low 20s. I think USC would love it in the 30s. I think I'm picking USC probably 24-20. I just don't trust that Illinois can stop them, and I don't know that Illinois can run the ball. I hope they can. I think Illinois has to run the ball, has to run the clock, has to win the time of possession, has to win the turnover battle. There's a lot of have-tos there, but I just was astonished by the athleticism again of Indiana. When I flipped on the USC game, I was like, boy, they look really athletic too, and they look like a team that's going to score some points, and I'm worried.
Jim, let me put a scenario past you as an Iowa pregame guy, pregame host, that looked at last weekend and said, man, if Indiana beats Illinois and they're coming off like this emotional home win, and if Iowa can take care of business against Rutgers and go home for homecoming before the bye week, and they get 3 teams at home that made the college football playoffs last year, Indiana, Oregon, and Penn State, and this has got to be the easiest of the 3 if they can get one of them. I like the situation and how it's set up. Then I watched the game on Saturday night and said, I mean, everything's going as planned except for the fact that these guys are really good. I guess your thoughts on the Iowa-Indiana game and watching what you watched with Indiana, but you've been to Kinnick Stadium. You know what it can be like at that end as well. What happens on Saturday as a neutral person that kind of looks and knows both programs pretty well right now?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good juggernaut there. I think Indiana's going to score some points, and my gut is Iowa can't keep up with them either. Indiana, I think you have to slow the game down too if you're Iowa. I think Iowa at home is far better than going to Indiana on a Saturday night when the place is going crazy. But I think Indiana is a legitimate favorite in that game. If Indiana wins that game, they feel really good about their playoff chances again. But I do think there's a bit of a letdown. I mean, that was a special night for Indiana football and a special celebration. And again, like you just said about Illinois, if Iowa gets on them early, if Iowa can score early in that game, I'm rooting for the Hawkeyes. I'm in the I don't like Signetti. I'm in that club. I mentioned to somebody I don't like Signetti. I wish you were my coach though.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I hated Bielema when he was at Wisconsin. But those cocky son of a guns who win, and I'm rooting for old Kirk Ferentz and the Hawkeyes on Saturday.
Let me throw this at you real fast. I've had Chuck Long on this week, Scott Docterman, I think somebody else that. The comparison
You're scraping the bottom of the barrel today, man. You're scraping the bottom of the barrel today.
No. You're the best of the best. Kirk Signetti is, and they've said this, all of them, is Hayden Fry. And you remember Hayden Fry.
I said the same thing earlier this week.
Is that a thing? Kind of talk about that, because they went to a college football desert and they have to be a little more brash, a little more. Talk about that as well.
I said the same thing earlier this week on the radio. I said, who is Kirk Signetti? And I asked my listeners, and they threw out some names. I said, he is Hayden Fry. Yeah. He is Hayden Fry. He's colorful. He's bombastic. He's our guy. I know he's had coaching experience, but nobody ever heard of him until he got to Indiana. I know Hayden Fry had experience, but we didn't know who this guy was when he showed up in Iowa. No. And he immediately started talking about beating the Ohio States and beating the Michigans. And Hayden Fry to me is still as important a figure as there ever was in Big Ten football, because he gave us all hope, because we never thought he could beat Michigan or Ohio State. And Hayden Fry said, the heck with that, we're going to beat him. And this guy Signetti, I mean, Indiana football, my God, I didn't even know they had a team, but he's in there saying, we're going to whip ranked teams. We're going to clobber ranked teams. We're going to win right away. And he reminds me so much of Hayden Fry's attitude. I like Hayden a lot more, but he reminds me a lot of Hayden Fry. And because Hayden was kind of a good old guy, and Signetti just seemed like a pain in the, he just never seems happy. Yeah. Where Hayden was funny, and but he does. He reminds me of Hayden Fry. He's taken a dormant program and given the whole state hope. I mean, I know a lot of Indiana Hoosier fans. I don't know any Indiana Hoosier fans, football fans, until the last 2 years. He's brought hope to everyone there, just like Hayden Fry did.
Yeah, Hayden was when you got to scratch where it itches. Some of the Haydenisms were I
Great
was a young
stuff. Great
kid
stuff, yeah.
watching it, and I loved going up doing it. We had dinner the other night, Chuck Long and I, and a bunch of Iowa fans and Kakert, and the stories that he tells about the 80s, in the middle of the 80s. Iowa fan or not Iowa fan, they're fantastic. So before I let you go, how's Friday nights going? How's everything down there in Peoria? I know you guys are as big. Can you believe we're after Friday night, we're over halfway through? You know how it is. It goes so fast, but it seems like it gets faster and faster every year.
I always say the cycle goes so fast. You're so fired up for this week's games, and Saturday you're kind of talking about them, then Monday you're looking ahead, and then bam, Friday's here, and I'm excited about some of the football games. We got a really good team in Lincoln Trail, Prairie Land, and Farmington. They're off to a 4-0 start. They're playing really good. I think Peoria High is good. Our Middle Illini Conference, we've got some good teams. Metamora, I think, is going to be a factor in Class 4A. Washington maybe in 6A, Dunlap in 6A. So we've got some good teams in the Peoria area, and a lot of talent. Boy, I think there's more Division I talent downstate Illinois. I'd like somebody to do a story on it. I don't know if it's the personal trainers or these kids are getting more out of their bodies, but the speed of the game, I think, has really, really improved across the board.
No, I would agree. I kind of said that of late too here in the Quad Cities. More and more, we're getting more and more Division I athletes, and especially in the football side of things as well. And it's really cool and fun to see. So, Jim, I appreciate it. I don't like talking under these circumstances. I think I said last week, probably to you, it might have been to Ked. I think it was Ked Prince. We were like, because we brought up the 2018 and Iowa beat Illinois 63-0. I said the days of 63-0 are done in Illinois.
Yeah.
Well, I guess 63-10. I should have kept my mouth shut. But anyways, we'll talk better terms. Best of luck to the Illini against USC. Enjoy your Friday night, and we'll catch up with you again real soon. I appreciate you, my friend.
Always great talking to you.
All right, that is the legendary Jim Mattson talking Illinois football with us. And we're going to talk a lot of Illinois basketball with Jim and women's basketball throughout the year. We don't want to do that yet. We want to keep talking football for a while. Illinois and USC, a big game, big noon showdown or whatever they call it on Fox. And it's an 11 o'clock kick in Champaign. So we got more to get to coming up after the break. Besides all the football, we got NFL and high school and college. It's also Ryder Cup weekend, that's why I'm wearing the John Deere Classic stuff today. We're going to talk with Craig DeVrieze coming up about the Ryder Cup, what it looks like for the Americans, what it looks like for the Europeans. It's going to be really good stuff. Theater. I think it's going to be really good this weekend. We'll talk all about it coming up next. We are watching Off the Air with Matt Randazzo on a Thursday. We'll be right back. Are you looking to take your next party, tailgate, or golf outing to the next level? You need Mobile Party Experience. MPX features 3 top-of-the-line party trailers equipped with all the amenities you need to party like a rock star. Smart TVs, Yeti coolers, JBL sound systems, grills, bathrooms, and much more. Mobile Party Experience is an experience like no other. Check out my-mpx.com or call 563-514-1470 and book your Mobile Party Experience today.
Give me the keys. Learning to drive can be stressful for both the student and, yes, the parent as well. Relax. There's an easy way to avoid the stress. Skiles Driving School in East Moline has been helping new drivers hit the road with confidence for over 20 years. Whether you're a teen earning your first license or an adult looking for behind-the-wheel training, we've got you covered. Their certified instructors are patient, experienced, and use modern vehicles equipped for safety and comfort. From classroom instruction to real-world driving, we make learning safe, affordable, and even fun. Call 309-278-0098 or visit skilesdriving.com. Skiles Driving School. Get in, buckle up, drive your future forward.
Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday in the Quad Cities. It's a huge sports weekend. The college football slate is as good as ever. You have the NFL is always king. There's the WNBA playoffs going on. But probably, arguably, one of the biggest things in my house is going to be a little golf because the Ryder Cup will take center stage starting on Friday. And if we're talking golf, we're going to chat with our good friend Craig DeVrieze, longtime, what would you call yourself? Longtime golf beat writer / golf guru / golf god? Is that too much?
Well, I like God. I don't know about guru. I don't know if I fit. I'm working toward it.
You're getting there. You're getting there. Craig DeVrieze joining us right now.
I should be above guru probably, but
probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
It is. It's a fun week. It's one of my favorite weekends and weeks of golf that there is. As a golf lover that you are, where do you rank the Ryder Cup and when it comes to golf events? I know it's not yearly, unfortunately, but where do you rank it when it comes to golf events for you?
Behind the majors, frankly, in the John Deere Classic, obviously. But it's it's obviously it's the team format that really seems to have some resonance, certainly in the USA and also across Europe. So, I mean, I think everybody's pretty interested to see what this is going to happen at what Bethpage Black is going to bring and what those New York crowds are going to bring, and I'm curious because. It's always been a 10 of dating back to the Miracle at Medina. The home team has always won and always dominated. So the matches haven't, frankly, even been close. So there's always fascinating drama. I mean, there's almost a brawl in the parking lot, the car park, as they call it, across the pond. So
yeah.
The last one. So it should be interesting. I know it's. I think there's really a lot of interesting personalities that are kind of coming to the fore here at this one. So, I think it has the makings of potentially something different. I think Europe has a shot at breaking that home dominance that's been going on basically since 2000. Yeah. I think there's only three away teams have won this thing, and they've all been from. It's always been Britain or Europe. So
yeah, you look at it, Craig, and since 2000, I think it's 8-3 Europe, and two. I think they won 2 or 3 times here in America, which is so rare. I think overall, what is it? Overall, 27-15-2 to the United States. But of late, Europe's been really good. I want to talk about Bethpage Black, and I want to talk about it in 2 different lights. 1, the course, but 2, who comes to the course and the crowd and the environment. Let's start with the environment because you mentioned it's New York. It's going to be boisterous. It's going to be loud. I remember I don't want to say I'm a newer golf fan, but I didn't grow up loving golf. And then when I got to college, I started playing it more. And I knew it. I was mainstream, but I got into a lot more, especially when I started covering the John Deere Classic. And it's a different environment. It's an amazing atmosphere that you don't see week in and week out in golf. Let's start with environment. What can we expect environment-wise from Beth?
I mean, it's been built up to be, just this crazy, Yankee Stadium kind of atmosphere. And I don't know that that's really going to, I don't know how that's going to manifest because, tickets start at $750. So, those Bronx Bros that back in 2002 at the Open kind of exposed Sergio for the mental weakling that he is. I don't know if they can afford to get in. And, but so it'll be interesting to see how much mashed potatoing is going to be done this weekend. It'll be loud. It'll be very definitely USA partisan. New Yorkers are New Yorkers. And, I think if current events have taught us anything, it's that stupid people have money too. So I think it can get pretty rowdy.
The one-liners from Craig DeVrieze on this show are always really, really good. That might be one of them. Stupid people have money too. Craig DeVrieze joining us right now on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. As a course itself, Craig, how does this set up? And you look at it, there's so many different golfers in this thing. So you look at it and who it fits more. I read someplace that the roughs were going to be cut down lower for the American long hitters. But then
the bomb and gougers. They're playing in.
You look at Europe, though. It's not like they can't hit the ball really far, too. Thoughts on how does this course set up? Yeah.
I think honestly, it's set up to be less, when you look at, especially in Paris, 6 years ago, I lose track. The advantage was definitely for Europe. It was set up not, for if you missed the fairway, you paid a heavy price. I think that was true too in Rome. But I think with the rough cut down, I'm not sure that it's certainly not going to hurt the Americans. But I don't know that there's going to be that much of an advantage for the Americans. Bethpage is a brutal golf course. It's a long golf course, but there's actually going to play a little shorter this year. They're talking about a drivable first hole if you can carry it 340, which a few of these guys can do.
Yeah.
Certainly Bryson can do that, and Rory can do that, and Rombo can probably do it. I don't know that the setup is going to favor the Americans the way some of the the way that Whistling Straits did when Steve Stricker was captain in 2020.
Sure.
So I think that's going to narrow the gap. That's why I think we're going to finally have a pretty interesting finish. I think Sunday's it's going to come down a little bit to Sunday, depending on those foursomes. That's a weird format. Alternate shot. Those guys are playing. They're out of their element. But an interesting thing about the black that as I watch Golf Channel is that there are holes that are built for guys who fade the ball. They're holes that are built for guys who draw the ball, and they're on alternate holes. I don't know if they drew it up to be a foursomes kind of golf course, but it certainly is. It sets up that way. So you're going to see pairings where Bryson will take it off the first tee because he can possibly drive that cut it around that corner and drive that green, and I think you'll see the same with the Europeans, and so they're going to play into it's going to play into ball shape and shot shape, and it's as it always does, probably come down to putting, and man, they always seem to putt well at the Ryder Cup, especially the Europeans.
I was going to say the Europeans do that. They especially these guys. This team is full of really good putters, Craig.
Yeah, and you see those you see shots made from everywhere in the Ryder Cup for some reason because they're just going for it. And I think you're really that's the beauty of this format and of this team play where they're just playing for country. It really brings out great golf. No, and even the President's Cup does that. So it's going to be interesting.
It's going to be a fantastic weekend.
Yeah, and I think personalities are really going to be as much as anything. And I think the American rookies are going to stand up well. I think that guys like Henley and JJ Spawn, they're rookies, but Henley's not a rookie. This is second go, and Harris English is another one of those. They don't seem to have a lot of they're not very emotional. They don't show it on the golf course. And I think they're going to stand up well to the spotlight. So I think that plays well for the Americans. I think the wild card, I think that Cam Young, who showed, if anything, we learned anything about him when he was in contention here 2 years ago at Deer Run, is he's got more inner red ass than virtually anybody on tour, and he's a New Yorker, man, and he won amateurs at Bethpage Black, so he's going to be an asset, I think, in this field. I think it really comes down to when you talk about emotional guys and guys who like the spotlight and sometimes fade in the spotlight. There's Rory, and there's Bryson, and they've already kind of had a back and forth, kind of talking at each other about, going back to, Bryson was a little bent out of shape because Rory, trying to win the Masters, didn't talk to him on Sunday. Well, get over that. And frankly, Rory won the Masters because Bryson out-choked him. I mean, Rory did not win that thing in spectacular fashion. I can still marvel at the shot that he hit in the water on 15. I just can't get past that. The approach from just short of Rays Creek. So I think really it comes down to a little bit of personalities. Who's going to stay? Who's the emotional guy that's going to stand up to the heat? I think another guy who fits that profile is Colin Morikawa, who's not really doesn't have a game that's really in great form. It's going to be interesting to see what he does too, because he kind of became the poster child for Gen Z when he said, "I'm not going to talk after I lose, and you can't make me." Blah blah blah. And that was kind of his story this year, and he's kind of got a dating back to Kapalua when Rahm ran him down from 5 behind on a Sunday several years ago before Liv blew up. He doesn't have that closer's mentality that you're looking for, certainly in this Ryder Cup.
Yeah, no, he's been a different golfer the last couple of years for sure. Craig DeVrieze joining us right now on Off Day with Matt Randazzo. The big story coming in, Craig, was the picks and the captain's picks, and I guess I'll get your thoughts on that. Everything's set. We're about ready to tee off and all those kind of things. But Keegan Bradley, the captain, could have picked himself. He didn't. Your thoughts on him not being on? Did he make that right decision? Me personally, I feel like he did, but your thoughts on he deserved it playing wise. I mean, he's playing good enough to be in it, but he's got so much to do this week. But
he's got the game, he's got Ryder Cup game, and I mean he's got Ryder Cup history dating back to playing as a female teammate of Mickelson's, several cups ago. But I think he did make the right decision. Being a captain's a way different thing these days. There's so much more that goes into it. It's not just filling up, putting names in a hat and sending them out. There's so much that's involved. I heard Paul Faraday or Paul on Golf Channel talking about how they started thinking about who would hit that first shot. And how who's the fader, who's the drawer, how this course was going to suit the players 2 years ago. They started thinking about, they were talking about how they're gonna approach the lineups, and there's so much that goes into it. It's amazing. Interestingly, Brandel just this evening referred to a practice kind of setup that Europe had last fall, where they brought an American comedian in to heckle these guys.
No way. No way.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
You'd love to know. I'd love to have been a fly on that wall.
Oh, yeah. My goodness. That's amazing. That's amazing. Craig, when you look at this, and again, we talked before we started that, when you have Europe, you have those 2, 3 or 4, probably 3 of the top 4 players are on Europe. And then it just gets really interesting with the United States. I think it's going to be a fascinatingly close weekend. I hope it is. I'm a U.S. guy. I'd love to see them win, but I'd love to see some drama and some. So when you look at both sides, give me a wild card from the American side and give me a wild card from the European side that you think could have a big say in what happens this weekend.
Well, Europe's got some guys that are really in great form. Tommy Fleetwood is probably in as good a form as anybody, Scotty Scheffler included. He played great in the FedEx Cup playoffs and won the Tour Championship. But Patrick Cantlay, I think, is a guy who was in the middle of everything in Rome, good and bad, mostly bad. He's a guy. He's going to wear a hat this year.
Oh wow!
Apparently, they found a hat big enough to fit his fat head, and it doesn't have anything to do with the $500,000 that the Americans are getting paid, and apparently they're going to all give all that money to charity, and Cantlay is too. So that's a non-factor, even though the Europeans are kind of using the fact we're not playing for money as a rallying cry. but I think Cantley will be. He's in sneaky good form. He finished second at the Tour Championship, and he could be a factor. Harris English is a guy nobody thinks about. He's kind of the guy who's there because he played his way onto the team, and that's forgotten part of this. He finished second at the PGA and the Open Championship, so he's an under the radar guy who could be a factor and who could kind of hold things up. But I think it comes down to the guys with the personalities, and I would love to see the Ryder Cup wherever they fit in the singles order and however they're set up. I would love to see it be Scotty versus Rombo, because I think, frankly, if Rom hadn't gone live, I think that those guys would Scotty Scheffler would have maybe a couple fewer wins, certainly.
Yeah.
And I think that would be a rivalry that people would be talking about as more, in the Jack and Arnie class, as opposed to, Tiger kicking Phil's ass every chance he got. I really think that would be a great anchor match, and then Rory versus Bryson, just for the pure fascination of those two guys who are pretty, emotionally up and down. And as good as Rory has been, he's been a little bit of it comes down to, he gave the Open away to DeChambeau last year, missing two short putts on 16 and 17, or was it 17 and 18? Anyway, he missed, in Rory fashion, he missed some really just tap-ins. They're 3-foot putts. And Bryson, he really kind of fell apart at the Masters, and he didn't really recover this year in the majors. And you talk about form, and it's hard to gauge the live guys because you don't know what they're. I don't pay attention. I don't watch. I don't watch
either.
The live. And Rom was Player of the Year on the live tour, but he didn't win. So that's an interesting piece of it too. So yeah, I think that would be really, really interesting to see those two matches kind of set everything up on Sunday.
You go down the European roster, and I'm looking at it earlier today, and you see Sepp Straka's name on there. And, of course, we have a tie with him, a John Deere Classic winner and all that. How has he been playing? And then you look at that European side, and we kind of talking about some wild cards on the American side. Tell me about Sepp and what you expect from him, and then also maybe the European side as well, and who stands out maybe wild card-wise.
Well, it's hard to anticipate what Sepp's going to do because he was really strong early in the year. Won an elevated event, won a signature event in Philadelphia in June, but then he's done nothing since. He didn't really flash in the FedEx Cup playoffs. Had a baby at home. They said there's something going on at home that's been distracting for him. So it's hard to say how much of a factor he'll be. A guy I think is going to be fascinating to watch is. It's the same European lineup as it was in 23.
The continuity is really good.
Down to the last names, they just switched out a Højgaard.
Yeah,
they took. That's all they did, and so what I think. But a guy who made his Ryder Cup debut for Europe in Rome was Bobby McIntyre, and he's played really good golf since then.
Yeah.
I think he could be the wild card. I think he could win, 3-4 points for the Europeans. I think that Victor Hovland is a guy who has game, but he's streaky, and you'd never know for sure which part of that streak he's going to bring. It's fascinating that Hovland and Morikawa both showed up at the 2019 John Deere Classic, and somebody got Victor to talk about weed. I don't know how that happened, but that was interesting.
It's my claim to fame, Craig. That's the best thing I've ever done. And what was it? Matthew Wolff was in that class as well. I know he had just won. He won. He won in Cleveland, or Minnesota.
No, he won in Minnesota the day before he came here.
Yeah,
and and I remember watching him. I went out and watched him play because I thought he was the best player in that whole trio. and turns out he wasn't. But he could sure bomb it. And I saw him hit it, 6 yards short of first green at Deer Run. I think pulled it a little bit over the trees on the left side, but it's as big a drive as I've ever seen there.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, Victor was there. It was Victor and it was Morikawa. And, Morikawa I thought was the most mature of the guys that Victor was fun. Morikawa, I watched, just straight out of college and doing an interview, and I thought he was the most mature, and it's turned out he's shown a few wrinkles, personality wise, just this year. But it's tough being in the spotlight. So, every answer, every action gets a reaction. And so that's where he's living now. So I forgot your question because I talk a lot.
No, you nailed everything to it. Here's what I want from you. I want a prediction. How does this thing end? Does Europe come over and get that rare victory on U.S. soil? How does this thing – give me a prediction. How does this thing end up?
I think it's really hanging in the balance late into Sunday. And
That'd
I think
great.
That I would just really love to see those two matches, Rory versus Bryson and Rombo and Scotty Scheffler going head to head. And maybe Scotty proves that, this is what I've done. And that this – even if Rombo was here, I'd still be dusting these guys because he's just got that gene and he's got that walk and that attitude that it'd be great if it came down to that. Will it? I don't know. They say that it's all decided early Friday morning. What they do in the foursomes is that alternate shot format is really, really critical. And so keep an eye on that. If they send Bryson off with say Ben Griffin. And they steamroll them. Maybe that means the Americans are in good shape. But again, they haven't been close matches, but I think this has the potential to be one. And I think I think that's the next step for the Ryder Cup. It would be so much fun that way.
I'm rooting for America in the U.S. Obviously, I have a sneaky suspicion that Europe wins a close one. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that's not what happened, but I agree with you. I think it's going to be close either way. Craig, we appreciate you. When we're talking golf, we're turning to Craig DeVrieze. How's everything at Deer Run? Everybody behaving themselves? I know they got you out there working like a dog, just slaving away left and right.
Yeah, standing on the first tee and saying go that way. Yes, that's a slave drive. No, it's great. Golf course, it's getting a lot of rounds. It's really fun to stand on the first tee and meet all the folks that are coming in from out of town and who are really excited to play the golf course that they see on the PGA Tour. It means people are watching the John Deere Classic, which is validating, and that's cool. So, and they really are. They hold the course in a lot of high regard, as the players do. I think that's the thing that gets reinforced every time I'm the starter on the first tee. I just get the feeling that the golf course is much more appreciated beyond the Quad Cities than it is in the Quad Cities.
No, that's awesome. No, that's
so looking forward to Celtics not being a powerhouse again this year for a team. I really hate that CBA, but it is what it is. They broke the champs.
Yeah, no, they did just that. So, well, Craig, I appreciate you. Enjoy your weekend of golf. Don't work too hard if you go out to Deer Run, and we'll talk again real soon. Appreciate you, my friend.
You got it, Matt. Always enjoy it.
That is Craig DeVrieze, longtime golf beat writer here around the Quad Cities and, of course, nationally as well. Talking about the Ryder Cup, and it starts on Friday. It should be fascinating. I am on that camp that I maybe wish they'd start Thursday, Friday, and Saturday and leave the NFL alone. But if you got something good, I'm going to watch it. That's why you have to have multiple TVs in the basement. So it should be a fascinating time. We'll keep you updated right here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. We got a lot more to get to coming up on the show. You're watching Off the Air on a Thursday right here in the Quad Cities.
Hello, Dan Pearson here of FCA. Our team is thrilled to support Off the Air with our good friend Matt Randazzo. We share the view of the power of sport when it comes to relationships, including the influence of the coach. FCA believes the coach is the most influential person in America. Matt celebrates local coaches and athletes. His content is informational, insightful, and inspirational. Our Fellowship of Christian Athlete team loves partnering with Off the Air with Matt Randazzo while we engage, equip, and empower coaches and athletes in our 23 counties. FCA, the heart and soul in sports.
View from the West, the podcast covering Illinois high school football.
It's going to be a hard-hitting game. It's going to be great football.
Weekly analysis and reaction from around the western side of the state of Illinois.
This is the game we had circled when the year started.
Follow along on YouTube and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.
It's big-time football out there tonight, and I know we can play big-time football.
View from the West. We got you covered.
Are you looking for the Quad City's best chips and salsa? There's only one dude to turn to.
Right on.
Snoop. Hand-cut chips, fried fresh with that crunch you've come to love. And the most addicting salsa with delicious fresh ingredients each and every time. Pick up your chips and salsa, queso, enchiladas, and much more at the Stern Center in Rock Island. To place your order, simply call the man himself. It's Snoop at 309-314-8197 and find out for yourself what the rest of the Quad Cities already loves. Welcome back to Off the Air with Matt Randazzo here on a Thursday, September 25th. Thank you guys for joining us. We do appreciate it. If you're watching us on YouTube, thank you. X is always awesome. And of course, the podcasting platforms as well. And if you're one of the new viewers in Central Iowa, welcome. Thank you. Hopefully you're enjoying week 1 of the show in that area. A lot to get to, a lot to talk about. We've had a blast this week alone. Gary Dolphin, Scott Docterman, Chuck Long, Pat Angerer, just for the Iowa fans, Tom Kakert, just for the Iowa grouping. Lots of other great stuff. Jim Mattson has been on the show. Tom Kakert, we mentioned Tom, Ty Taylor, Mark Nessler, Jake Brend for the Iowa State fans. So a really fun week here on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Today, Tom Kakert and Zach Browning from the Hoosier, both with On 3, joined us to take a deep dive at that game on Saturday. It's Indiana and Iowa, a big one in Iowa City. So if you missed that, go check it out right now, earlier in the show. Also, Jim Mattson, one of my favorite people in the world from Peoria, has been covering Illinois football, basketball, everything for a long, long time, to talk about Illinois and how they move on and how they have to move on. And now they get USC on Saturday. So check out Jim as well. And then, of course, we just wrapped up a preview of the Ryder Cup, which should be a bunch of fun this weekend as well. I've been meaning to get to this probably since Monday, and so I apologize, but we do our weekly Skiles Driving School Drive of the Week, high school football wise, that drive that kind of stood out among the rest, and we want to take this one, and we want to thank our good friends in Sterling for providing the video, but UT was up 21-3. This is late in the second quarter, and for Sterling to get the ball late with like under 2 minutes to go and then score with 6 seconds left, that cut the lead to 21-10 at the half, gave them a ton of momentum. The Golden Warriors came all the way back and won the game, scoring 46 of the next 53 points. So the Sterling Warriors in that drive, late in the second quarter, is your Skiles Driving School Drive of the Week. We'll have another one for you coming up much earlier next week. Had to clear some video stuff and everything before we did that today. So, and thank you to Skiles Driving School for their great support of high school athletics in general, but then of course of Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. You can go to skilesdriving.com and find out how to get your driver's license for your young person, or if you need to get yours renewed, all that kind of stuff. Check them out at skilesdriving.com. A little news and notes during the show. The University of Iowa has announced that they will be hosting Hawkeye Hoops from downtown. It's presented by Hy-Vee. It's coming up on Friday, October 17th. It'll be an outdoor basketball court set up by Burge Residence Hall. It'll be an hour-long event. It'll be your first look at the Iowa men, Iowa women. Both will be there. Ben McCullum, Jan Jansen. So really exciting. It's called Hawkeye Hoops from Downtown, presented by Hy-Vee. It's October 17th at 5:30. The event is free and open to all. Parking will be downtown Iowa City in the parking ramps down there. So get down there, check it out. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, media days are right around the corner, and we're hoping to do some fun things from Iowa Media Day as well. If you remember, for the football media day, we did a show from up there. So I'm exploring and efforting and seeing what kind of things we can do, maybe in Iowa City coming up next month when it comes to the Hawkeyes and basketball season beginning before you know it. So again, we want to thank our sponsors for allowing us to do this. We want to thank Tom Kakert, Zach Browning, Jim Mattson, Craig DeVrieze for all being on the show. Don't forget, tomorrow's show it will be on the road. We're looking at Rockridge High School. That's the hope. We'll get you completely set up for week 5 of the high school football season. Should be a bunch of fun. We'll have a blast with that. Don't forget the Hawkeye Tailgate Show on the Hawkeye Radio Network. We will kick things off when it comes to a huge Saturday in Kinnick Stadium and in Iowa City. We'll do that at 12:30 from Kraus Family Plaza. So if you're going to the Iowa game and you're roaming around early and tailgating, stop by Kraus Family Plaza. 12:30 is the show. The Hawkeyes have announced that the honorary captain will be Dan McCarney, so which is really cool. So Coach McCarney will be on the Hawkeye Tailgate Show with us. Pat Anger will be on with us. Jackson Rexroth will be on with us. He'll go inside the huddle. We'll have our press box perspective as well, with some great guests with that. So a bunch to get to. So if you're roaming around Kinnick Stadium, stop by between 12:30 and 1:30 for the Hawkeye Tailgate Show. If you're not roaming around, check us out on the Hawkeye Radio Network all over the state of Iowa. Here in the Quad Cities, it is Vintage Radio, 107.7 FM, WQUD, not to confuse with WQAD, WQUD. So check us out. We should have a bunch of fun on the Hawkeye Tailgate Show coming up on Saturday. And last but not least, don't forget, on Saturday evening at some point, we will have a special edition of Off the Air come your way, recapping the Iowa-Indiana game. Hopefully it's a victorious, happy show with Iowa winning. We'll also look at what Illinois and USC did and some other college football stuff as well. So check that out on Saturday. We'll get it out to everybody, and people have enjoyed it. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, it was 1:00 in the morning on Friday night, Saturday morning last week after Rutgers. A couple thousand people watching it. So we appreciate that. We love it. We thank you for doing that. So still a lot to get to. I'm counting at least 2 more shows tomorrow and then Saturday this week on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. So thank you guys so much for joining us. We appreciate it. All the feedback, any feedback you have, we'd love to have it. And we will see you again here tomorrow on Off the Air with Matt Randazzo. Have a great Thursday.